All right. Check, check, mic check. Are we live on YouTube or Twitch? Should be on Twitch. But we'll see. I'm not seeing a video though. That's kind of weird. Growing pains, right? There is an ad playing, so that's very interesting. Let's wait for that. Otherwise, we'll get it going. If you guys are watching and tuned in, you guys may notice that it's a little bit different than this time around. I'm not streaming my typical game, but I wanted to kind of invite a couple of great people to my stream to talk about video games and video game culture. I've been around these fellows for a long time, and these two are the first two people I think about when jumping to the stream. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the GQAzndood Academy of Gaming, where we're always on the level up with the latest gaming news and pop culture buzz. Class is in session. Let's get gaming smart and pop culture savvy. Let me introduce you to our panelists for today. The first one is going to be Nick. Nick, welcome. Welcome to the first episode of the GQAzndood Gaming Academy. I got to change that name. It's too long.
Thanks for having me, Teach. I
You
appreciate it.
got
It's
it.
so good
You
to be
got
on
it.
here.
Yeah, panelist number one. I would say historically, we've worked together at our local gaming store in Bellingham, Washington. You're a great team, in my opinion. If anything, if we had our own store, we would have just have our own franchise by now. So,
In your
uh,
opinion.
in IMO, nothing that I say is a fact. It's just always an opinion. Anyway, Nick, introduce yourself, please.
Hey everyone, I am Nick. Like James mentioned, I worked with him at a local retro video game store. I was with them for about 8 years. Before that, I was with mega conglomerate GameStop for 8 years as well. So a long time in the gaming world, the retail side. I recently was also working for a company out of Bellevue, Washington, working with teams like Xbox Research and Meta on games and gaming research. So I've been connected to the industry for a very long time and got a hold of me and said, "Hey, I want to get together and talk games and stuff." And I was like, "It's been too long since I've enjoyed games and stuff." So absolutely, I'm there.
Well, it's good to have you, man. Because, like I said, and I told you this before in the pre-stream, in the backstage, that if there's anybody that I'd like to have on a podcast with a lot of great insight and experience in the game industry, you would be the first one I reach out to. So, thank you for coming. I appreciate you.
Always
Okay.
happy to be here.
All right. With that said, let me introduce you to our next panelist, which is, I would say, the man from the streets, because he's a fighter and he's like one of my rivals, the greatest rivals in Bellingham of all time, the one and only, the blazing, the ace, the Nelson.
Hey, you're giving me way too much credit, but I appreciate it nonetheless. For those of you that don't know me from my regular streams here on Twitch, I am, of course, Blazing Ace Nelson. Uh, I I have gone by many names. You know, the Legend of the Dirty Cap, the Protagonist, one half of the Hooligans, but pretty much lifelong gamer and pretty long time content creator, although pretty underground content creator since what, 2011, 2012.
Sounds about right.
So you could say that a lot of my antics have been running parallel to the industry, like, as GQ mentioned, as the professor mentioned, I could basically be considered your man on the street, the Johnny come lately, the one that says, hey, let me wait for the sale, let me pick up this game and, get folks connected to these, previously unseen gems that, folks might have slept on.
Now that's true. I still remember the day I visited your place, and I saw a copy of Samurai Western on your shelf, and I cannot never forget that. So if you want to talk obscure, this man has it or played
Hey,
it.
That's actually what I was planning to play for my PS Tuesday stream today, but I figured, you know what? Let me let me save my energy. Let me save my e-tanks for this.
Mm. All right, guys. Yeah. With that said, like I brought a duo here, a very powerful duo, and we got this going on. But the first thing that we're going to cover today is this day in video game history. So this topic, I know it's the first time we're doing this episode, but we're going to be covering what games came out in the specific years I guess before years before us, right? But let me tell you, let me read something that I generated off ChatGPT, which is super fun. I said, today in gaming history, where we hit the reset button on the past and level up your knowledge with legendary milestones and pixel perfect memories. I love that. So, first thing in this day, what day is it? 9/17, right? In gaming history. We're gonna go all the way back to 1986, where I was 5 years old and I didn't even know about video games. Just letting you know, the Japanese version of King's Knight was released. Does anybody know what that is?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay. So I think it was it's a SquareSoft game, and then it was renamed to in the US called Nightmare.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I had a different list for today that I found on GameFAQs. That's like, oh man, what game is it going to pick from this list? That's not even on the list, so you got me there.
Yeah, no, so I did see that list. It was the first thing that was generated on the search. I decided to pick Moby's games, and I'll actually just share this with you guys. And if there's something you guys want to share on the screen, also just feel free to bring it up. Let's see here. All right, I don't know if you guys can see that, but yeah, I really need to make that bigger, don't I?
Hey,
there you go.
Right?
Hey, I'm old. I'm wearing glasses. I can't see anything.
You just dropped your own age in there. So yeah, I think the people know.
1986.
We need to blow that up.
Yeah. So, fun fact: never played it. So the first, I would say, the first RPG on the Nintendo I ever played was not Final Fantasy. Believe it or not, was actually Ultima Exodus, and I was not smart enough to play that game because I was always dying, and I never understood. 5-year-old James or 6-year-old James never understood the idea of leveling up your characters was. So I was always like, this is so hard. I cannot get past this level. Yeah. And then I don't think I had other friends to help teach me how to play RPGs. So the RPGs ended up being my worst genre of game that I wanted to play when I was a kid. What about you guys?
Ace, you got some ready for this?
Actually, like I had a list up, and I'm trying to dig that back up again.
If we're talking about just genres in general, I remember being behind the counter and telling people pretty often when I first started playing games, I had my dad's NES and my dad's Atari 2600, but where I really started gaming on my own was when we started getting, computers in every household, the kind of like mid to late 90s. I played a lot of Command and Conquer. RTS was my jam. That's okay. What I loved to play. That's all I played for the longest time. And the moment I went off to college later on, played a lot of different games, but RTS was still kind of my thing, like StarCraft, Warcraft, all that jazz. I remember when I started working at GameStop, I realized, oh crap, I really need to know more about a lot more games in order to do my job correctly, even as like a holiday hire when I first came on, going well beyond my outside my comfort zone to just try different stuff. So yeah, RTS was my claim to fame when I started, but ever since then I really fell in love with just trying different genres and experiencing different things out there.
Yeah, and actually, I'm so glad I pulled this list up because have I got a couple of classics for y'all. This day in gaming history. So look, a JRPG that came out on the PS2 during the latter portion of its life, one that I'm sure a lot of people slept on, but still sits as actually one of my favorite non-Squaresoft or non-Square Enix RPGs on the system, has a rather nicely tuned, unique, emotion-focused, turn-based combat system. And that was Digimon World Data Squad.
Wow, that's a reach. Awesome.
That's a deep cut.
Right. And I mean, this was back around where I started getting back into trying to watch, some of the later seasons of Digimon. So I saw a couple of episodes of Data Squad on Jetix, and I was like, what is this? What is going on over here? Had a blast with a main pro tag that, basically squared up with every Digimon he met. And I mean literally just went hands on him. Actually went hands with his freaking Agumon to Digivolve it. And I'm like, I need more of this. I see the game. I need more of this. Haven't turned back since. But the other big release, which actually hit literally on the same day, and it's probably why Digimon World was overshadowed. This game right here, when it released, I'm sure every single one of my fellow Muso heads was just losing their minds. And this was when Warriors Orochi first dropped.
Oh, yeah.
What year was that?
That was 2007.
2007? Oh,
Yep.
This list sucks, man. What the heck? You don't even have it on here.
Shout out to everyone in the comments as well. And
Noble
my boy Andre
Games.
with the Kazuma Kiryu profile picture.
Oh, so I just let you know, Andre, Nick here is likes the same stuff you like. So you guys are gonna be BFFs.
I constantly get made fun of in my group of friends because I'm the only one nonstop playing Yakuza games, or Like a Dragon now, but Yakuza games. Got most of the collector's editions. Always happy to chat about it. Like, that is my jam. It's a weird obsession that I have. But yeah, Ace. On that note, like going back through this list, because I was just straight up like genre in general, but just on this list, a couple of things that I just remember standing out like this day in history, just on that topic of like games that were released. I know it was the Windows version, but Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver being released and Borderlands 2 being released on this day. Two very big games that I played, in the past. Borderlands 2 is probably the one I spent the most time on, and notoriously working at GameStop and seeing the collector's editions that come in. I owned like 8 versions of that game. I bought it 8 times. I had it for PC, I had it for 360, I rebought it for Xbox One, I rebought it for my Series X, I rebought it on PC again recently when they did a collector's edition. I have a signed steelbook copy from Mikey and Pitchford. Like, I really got into Borderlands 2. So just calling it out, this day in history, like that game was a big point for me.
That was Borderlands Day.
Yeah. Didn't do anything else. Didn't go to work that day. I'm sick.
I would have been offended if you did.
That was a economic struggle on record that Borderlands came out and nobody showed up to work. That's exactly what
yeah. We're gonna close the store that day. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. People,
shit,
employers were stunned.
I'm not going to the movie. Like, I'll be honest, seeing the trailer for the movie when it came out, I actually reinstalled Borderlands 3 and started playing it again recently. Like, one of the things we might talk about another time is like what we're playing right now and why. But I started playing Borderlands 3 again. I never really finished it back in the day, and I felt like it deserved a second chance after seeing the dumpster fire that was the trailer and the response to that movie.
I mean, I honestly think, not to divert conversation, but I honestly thought that movie just came out a little too late. Actually, that brings us
among
to our
other
next
things.
That brings us to our next topic of conversation. I think that came out a little bit too late. Is the topic of Concord, right? So everybody knows, or hopefully everybody knows on chat or on this panel, that Concord is a hero shooter that came out recently. That was barely out before this many days, right? And it was canned. So luckily, I have some people here that have a little bit of knowledge beyond my scope, and I'd like to give my 2 cents on that and hear everybody else's 2 cents on it, because it has to be one of the biggest flops in gaming history. And we kind of want to get down to the nitty gritty and what happened. And because keep in mind, I would say hundreds of people worked on this game for 8 years. I just want to know what happened, what went wrong, and how to not to repeat that, and what was at fault. So I guess if you guys are new to the game and new to the situation, is that Concord is a hero shooter that was developed by Firewalk Studios, was published by Sony. It had a beta that people tried out. I think it had a mediocre, lukewarm response to the beta, if that. And then upon release, had a maximum player count of 128 people. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but it was not enough to have enough games online. And
Yeah, I think it was in
eventually,
like the 1 to 200s.
yeah, and eventually Sony pulled the plug. And matter of fact, I have my copy of Concord right over there because I like collecting very obscure and rare video games. And it's gonna sit right there next to Babylon's Fall. If anybody remembers
Oh,
what that game
right.
is, I have a physical copy of Babylon's Fall, pun intended. But yeah, I would love to hear everybody else what their thoughts are on that. Nick, if you want to lead the charge, you're more than welcome to.
I can lead the charge, but not as an expert in hero shooters. So I'll say that right out of the gate. I tried a bunch of hero shooters, but never really got into them because I really wanted to know like what made them tick and what made them fun. One thing that I mentioned for the people that haven't been here since the start of the stream, in my previous position, I worked as part of a research company that did research on video games. So one of the companies that we were affiliated with and that I worked with and got to know was my friends at Xbox Research. Got to know some really cool people. Learning a lot about video games and what made them tick was the bread and butter. Just trying to understand what people liked and what people didn't. So when we were talking about doing this podcast and talking about Concord, I know a lot of people in the space are talking about it right now. For my part, I got to know some of the devs that worked on it because I was based out of Bellevue. And for those that don't know, Firewalk Studios is based out of Bellevue as well. They're right down the corner from us. Got to see, obviously I can't talk too much about it with everything behind NDAs and such, but it was really cool to kind of see that process come to life. But when you look at it from that side of it, the dev side, it took 8 years to make this. There's very few game studios that can make a game on that big of a scale of building out a game for that long and still have it hit and be relevant when it lands. Rockstar, I know, is a common thing that people bring up as a studio that makes these games that take, 10 years or longer. What is GTA 5 at now? 12 years?
Oh,
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, 10
but,
or 12 years.
Yeah, when those games hit, they hit, and for good reason. That team really has it together. But for a studio like this, a hero shooter that was of the time, you asked at the very top of this, like, learn from this. A lot of people have been saying for years that the gaming industry never learns. It's about chasing trends and trying to catch lightning in a bottle. And if you have a design that takes that long to get to and you don't change things up, it's not going to hit. So like I said, not so much of a hero shooter side for me. The little bit that I played of Concord, it was just like, yes, and like what more can this give? It felt dated when it landed, and I know that's something that's been said before, but that was really my takeaway from it. It's just like, not only who's this for, but what time is this for? What year is this for? It just feels like it's a fish out of water in this space. So I'm not surprised that it didn't do as well. I'm more so surprised how the plug was pulled so quickly. A lot of the dev teams and games that we see and products that we see come out, it doesn't get pulled in 10 days, much less something that's meant to be this online, like live service, shooter, always online PvP kind of thing. That blows me away more than anything with the experiences that I've had.
Something that's meant to last years, let alone anywhere near the, like, you would think that with the time that was spent actually developing Concord, that the game would be built to, at the very least, break even on the market for that same amount of time. The game takes 8 years. We want to at least be able to have it on the market and have it supported for that same amount of time. You would think it would be that kind of, 1-to-1 sort of thing. It's like I always talk about whenever I do my gaming reviews. It's value proposition. It's time invested versus time out in the wild.
The time you put in, what you actually get out of it.
Yeah.
Blue's got an interesting comment here. It says Rockstar is like a famous musician who was prominent back in the 90s and the thousands, then puts out music albums every several years. I mean, when the branding is so strong, I mean, why not? Right? I mean, let's keep in mind, guys. Every company's goal is to make a lot of money, right? Especially when they're backed by investors. So, and that's kind of why it's very mysterious that for a game that was given lots of money and lots of time to bake was pulled so quick, right? That's the mysterious part. And I agree, and I also agree with Nick when he says like, who is this for? Like the hero shooter genre came out what 8 years ago, and it was like the peak moment of that, and when everybody was copying Overwatch, right? And everybody
Right.
already had paid their 40-60 bucks for that game, and eventually went to free to play, right, with Overwatch 2. Now we're at the tail end of that, and then BRs are the thing right now, so I'm surprised they didn't switch it to a BR. Because that seems to be the big hook right now for Fortnite and all these other games copying
Or
Fortnite.
or at the very least going the route of, instead of just like, hero arena shooters like say, Overwatch and oh god, like Overwatch and Battleborn,
Mhm.
aiming
Oh,
towards
Battleborn.
I
more of
like
a
Battleborn.
Yeah.
more of a hero based looter shooter like
Yeah.
say Warframe or the First Ascendant.
Fortnite
Yeah.
did it.
Yeah, and that's my thing. I think the biggest hurdle that Concord had was it was just too late. Came out a little bit too late. Um, Also $40, right? That's the big thing. Is and you guys may disagree, but I have a backlog of games I really want to get to, and there's a lot of games that really fight for your attention with season passes and FOMO to unlock, and you have to play and log in. And adding another one where I have to spend $40 to do that, and I already have time invested in a different one, right? I don't think that would have been my first choice if I had to spend $40 that day, right? I would have probably bought a different game. I did
I
play the
think it
beta. Go
is
ahead.
it's partly that. No, to jump in, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
you
go
made a
ahead.
really good point about that price point. It's been said ad nauseum as well lately. The other games that are out there that are in this space are free to play already. If you want to talk about value proposition, all these other ones are doing it for free already, and people want to put their time in. I am always gonna be a little bit of a devil's advocate in the sense that whenever you talk about people putting in their time, not having enough time. I feel that crunch constantly. Right now, with the amount of games that are in my backlog, I still need to finish. Well, for example, speaking of Yakuza games, I haven't finished it yet because time is just slipping away for me, like it all does for everyone. But if people will put in the time if they feel it's worth it, so something like Concord was trying to find a niche, it was trying to find a place for people to come in, play it, get hooked, be a part of it. The problem was that it didn't have hooks. It was trying to be a lot of things at once, not only a hero shooter, but other content creators have said it was like trying to be a little bit like Guardians of the Galaxy, which again has been out for a while. So that game was starting to be developed at a time when Guardians of the Galaxy was a thing. Like kind of like buddy group of misfits with quippy kind of dialogue. It was fun, new, and exciting then, but you roll it out 8 years later and put a price tag on it, something that already feels dated. No one's going to want to put in the time. If they had done some things differently, yeah, people would have done it. The same reason that any of these like multiplayer shooters right now, like I haven't played a Call of Duty multiplayer for a while, but Black Ops 6, after seeing the trailer and some of the feedback on that, I'm honestly excited. If I have Xbox Games Pass, I'm going to give that a shot. I'm going to put big time out of my schedule to do that.
Yeah. I mean, I think what it's like, I'm seeing what Blue wrote here. $40 isn't what killed, Concord. It's not. There's a lot of factors that came into it, right?
Right.
But you
Well, it
have to
killed
keep in
Concord,
mind,
but it didn't help.
yeah. But you have to keep in, yeah, you have to keep in mind the people that have only X amount of dollars to spend on video games, like that don't know what Concord is, right? And I think that's another thing that was an issue with Concord was there was a lot of talk about the design of the characters that weren't appealing to a lot of people. And I'm actually going to put a link in the comments here. This is a video from Thor, which is Pirate Software. Does a really cool breakdown of color theory on characters and describes the characters a little bit more. I really like his perspective on it, so give it a watch when you guys get a chance. because we do have a lot of stuff to cover. Ace, do you have any other things you want to add to Concord, if anything? Because it's kind of, I feel like we've already said a lot.
Not that I can really think of, not or at the very least, not that I haven't said already in other venues. I mean, to really sum it up and I guess kind of you know put that wrap it up nice and tidy and put a bow on it. It it came out at least 6, 7, 8 years too late. The crowd, the niche that Concord was trying to chase has already moved on. They've already, Guardians of the Galaxy already had its finale with Volume 3. Overwatch is basically, moving into the latter part of its life cycle with, a lot of the newer stuff that's been hitting for Overwatch 2. The two ends that Concord would have had with their user base, those ships have already sailed.
Yep.
If they could have done something different with that space, then yeah, might have found a footing. And like Blue mentioned, 40 wasn't the thing that killed it, but it was certainly a big hurdle to get over for a lot of people. I wanted to try it, give it a try. We're trying to get people into this ecosystem just to give it a try. Like, that's asking a lot. Like, just download something else.
Yeah, this is one of those things where not only a beta to get people to actually try out the game would have helped, but again, a lower or maybe non-existent monetary barrier to entry.
So before we hop off, that's actually a really good point that GQ and I were talking about before the stream. There was a beta for this, and the thing is that what did they hear during that beta that they still decided to push through and release this thing? Again, the biggest mystery is that they've got this feedback. Having done a little bit of work in the video game research field, you're hearing well ahead of release. You're trying to get everything dialed in, dot the I's, cross the T's, get this game ready to go, make sure there's no big breaking things. The fact that it released in this state, with the amount of money and time put into it, and 10 days later pull the plug, it's just really, really weird. It stinks. It seems like there's something else going on that I can't really say what it's going to be. It's just weird to see that much time, that much money invested. A lot of money was put into this, and they still pushed through and released it. And were they planning on like content patch 1 was going to drop all these fixes and content to make it worthwhile? We've seen that before, right?
And there's even the episode of Secret Level that's supposed to be focused on Concord.
Yeah, they put a lot of money into this game, 100%, and they put a lot of hope into this game. Just like what Blue said on the comments there, I think they launched on sheer hope. Yeah, I would too if I put millions of dollars into something. You better launch that shit. You know what I'm saying? Let's see it. Let's write it out, see what happens. And clearly, there was just not enough, right? They were probably thinking they were going to hit those beta numbers, but that was free. Keep that in mind, right? But now you have to pay $40. And that's what was the residue of the player base from that beta, right? So that's the other issue there.
Just like Andre said, if Concord had pretty much taken those cues from Overwatch, and not only released like free to play, but also my opinion on Overwatch as well is that both that and Concord would have benefited from a single player mode.
Yeah. I mean, I think any video game should have a single player mode where, in my opinion, I'm just old school like that. Here I am.
All that talk about single player games being dead is false narrative.
Right? Yeah, 100%
news.
Yeah, we'll get to that once we talk about once we get to our now playing section. But speaking of games that got lots of money and funding for it that nobody really knew about, I would like to introduce everybody to this game. I don't know if anybody knows anything about this game, but this game called Dustborn. First of all, panelists, do you guys know anything about this game so far? Heard about it by any chance?
Only heard a little bit about it. I have not played it. This one, if I remember, was published by Quantic Dream, I want to say. That's the only reason I knew about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I actually like the games that they released, right? So I figured that, hey, let's, I like the Walking Dead games. I like the what other was it? What was the OG Quantic Dream game that they made? Not
Uh,
Heavy Rain.
yeah, it
No,
was. Yeah,
wasn't
it
there one
was.
before that on the PS2 era or Xbox era?
Oh my god.
And it got
Hurt my brain. I should know
recently,
that, but I don't.
yeah, and it got printed on like limited run, and it was like one of the weird ones from like that era. Anyway,
Yeah, like
yeah,
the big ones that I can think of right offhand when I think of Quantic Dream are, you know, heavy, are Heavy Rain, Quantum Break, and Detroit.
I feel like there's one more that like wasn't
Beyond
really.
Two Souls.
Nah, there's one there. Yeah, there was one before that. Man, before this, the reason why I bring Dustborn up, and if you guys don't know or the chat doesn't know anything about this game, is that like this game got heavily funded by a government, also, right? And ultimately, from what I heard about this game over the internet, mostly negative reviews, mostly focused on social justice issues back 6 years ago, right? And so the game is, I mean, there's a feature in the game where you get triggered, right? So a lot of people are commenting, is this a game made by right wing people to make fun of the left wing people? You know? So, but it was actually a game that was, I think, designed to just give space and a game to reflect on people that, that would feel isolated and left out in the video game world, but also mirrored the things that were happening in reality, right? This game is pretty much an allegory of 2016 all the way to to the present time. Um, and the reason why I bring it up is because I think the current play, if we can somebody look up how many players are on Steam right now playing this game, I think it's less than 100, right?
Let's see.
And for a big budget game to have that many players, I mean, that's another, a failure in my opinion. I don't even know what the sales are.
Let's see. Dustborn current players.
8 players on right now, 24-hour peak of 15, 83 all-time peak.
Yeah. So
That was almost
83.
a month ago.
So yeah, so less than 100 for a game. I don't know what the budget is. Does it say on there? I think it says right here, $1.4 million in, what is that? Norsk, Norwegian, right?
Yeah,
Currency.
it was Norwegian. Looks like a Norwegian studio.
Okay. I haven't played the game. A lot of YouTubers that I follow have played the game to see if it is really that bad. From my understanding, it is definitely not a video game for everybody. It definitely talks to a specific audience. Unfortunately, I don't think this audience is me, right? But as a gamer, I'm always just curious to be like, hey, I kind of want to check it out, see what it is. I did have this like PS2 era of gaming where I just played trash PS2 games like, I don't know, Fugitive Hunter. Does anybody know what Fugitive Hunter is, right?
I do know, but that's thanks
Okay.
to the fine people at Old Funhouse as to why I know that.
Awesome. Yeah, I played that game, and the main story of that game is to find Osama bin Laden. That's exactly what that game was. So, and you were like John Smith, the federal agent, or like there was no real, it's Call of Duty, but like at a dollar store Call of Duty is what I call it. We have Call of Duty at home. It's the best way I can explain
Right.
that.
And I definitely recommend watching the Old Funhouse playthrough.
Yeah, if you can find it, link it on there.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find it. Rooster Teeth has pulled a lot of their stuff off there, so I don't know if it's a legit one. I don't want to, like cause any issues there. But yeah, that's one of my favorite playthroughs of theirs was that one. I don't know much about Dustborn. I dig the style, and honestly, Dominique Tipper, because I love The Expanse. Dominique Tipper's voicing a character in this game, and she's an awesome actress. So I will speak a little bit to like again that gaming research kind of thing. When we get a game that is trying to go for a specific community, I had to find participants to test these games or give feedback on these games from specific demographics, specific communities, in order to come in and take a look at the game. Just be like, hey, is this something that plays well? Does it make sense? Is it something that you want to play? So it may have been made for a very specific community, or it may have been a way to express frustrations with the world. That's perfectly fine. It's not for you. It may not be for me. I kind of dig the art style, like the actresses on there. I would have to play it to really have an experience on it. Just like the meetings you were saying, I couldn't say it. Like mass market appeal, definitely not
Yeah, I mean, also I think your connection's just slowly dying. I'm hearing every other word that you're saying.
Oh, okay. Well, it's me probably just clicking through everything with all these tabs.
No, all good, man. But I did get the most of that. What did it say? Not a game that clicked with me. Yeah, and I mean that's a common thing that anybody would say, right? With any game, I think a regular person or whatever can see Call of Duty and say that's not a game I'd click with, but I'd play the crap out of Assassin's Creed, right? So it's a very common thing, and that's okay. I think what I'm not okay with is when people start accusing of other people of like certain things just because of the way of a game is performing, right? And if sales are low and your targeted market or audience isn't there, like who are you really to blame? Is it really the audience or is it really like the people that wanted to create this game? Like I don't like I'm not in game dev, right? But I think it really started in the pre-planning phase. Is like is first of all, is this game good? What's the kind of the gameplay mechanics, right? What's the story? It those things to me matter versus whatever social issues that we're talking about. um I mean, it's not that those don't matter, but like when I play video games, I tend to escape, not go back to reality, and then face the things I want to escape from, right? But I do understand when people are also looking for representation and want to be represented in the media that they love, right? I'm totally all about that, you know. But to some, I think it's just they feel that their space is now being invaded by other people, that I guess are threatening their space of escape as well, right? Don't bring that here. I'm trying to get away from that, is what I'm really hearing. But there's a lot of toxicity out there, so that may not translate very well just because people are blunt on the internet. It is the internet, right? So I don't know. Ace, you got anything to add or kind of like add discourse to Dustborn, what you know of it?
Uh, well, firstly, again, let's take it just straight up from a review perspective. Looking at taking a look at some of the footage that I've seen of it, and just the overall audio visual hook, right? Firstly, no, it doesn't seem like a game that I would click with. Just again from the footage that I've seen of it, the art style, the art style does have some promise to it. It's kind of a, you know, it's kind of a blend of like, Telltale, and a little bit more of the, sort of bright kind of cell shaded look that you normally get from something like, and I think this may be what might catch Nick, Borderlands. It's got a little bit of a Borderlands vibe to it, just visually. But the game itself, again, from what I've seen of it, footage wise, it's very on the nose. And just like you said, when you sit down and you boot something up, you want to get away from the daily grind that's like wearing you down, and you know grind, you know step into a different kind of grind where you're building something up. Instead of you being worn down, you're trying to build up a character, or you're trying to build up your skill at a particular game. You're putting your focus elsewhere so you can decompress. And Dustborn is incredibly heavy. It's incredibly grindy, from the sense of, it's trying to bring more of that daily grind in. And again, it is very on the nose. I mean, people could say that some of Hideo Kojima's previous efforts, like with the Metal Gear series, or were pretty on the nose, but at the same time, there's still a lot that actually helps make it more subtle, and actually gives the audience a chance to go, that's an interesting way to look at this particular topic that's making waves in the news.
I agree. Well, I mean, the first thing that I think about when they talk about how does art reflect life, right? And life generates art, whatever, was um, Metal Gear Rising and Revengeance with
Mm.
Senator Armstrong, right?
Mhm.
That man is an allegory for America, right?
Yeah.
So him being the villain in that game really just shows how what the world thinks of us and our attitude towards that kind of stuff, right? So, but I think what really, I guess
But
to
at
put
the same
it,
time, it still doesn't really take you out of the setting of, it doesn't break the immersion.
correct,
You're
because
you're
you're
playing
a
Metal Gear
cyborg
Rising.
ninja killing stuff, right? Yeah, that's
Bingo. And then at the end of the game, you face off against the anti-Hagar.
exactly anti-Hagar. I like that. Um, but yeah, and that was kind of like, I think if Dustborn had better gameplay when it came and just out more outlandish stuff like that, right? I think there would have been less, like, I guess, like what is that, backlash against it. But I just think a lot of people are looking for an excuse to get mad at something where in reality this game was made and it's not for you. Just don't play it. You have, and then use that energy to just focus on games. Your backlog, for example, I'm sure you have one, right? Just focus on that, right?
Bingo.
No need to extend extra energy throwing out hate out there. You can have your opinion and your thoughts on it, but like to just, anybody that sends out death threats or anything crazy like that is insane, right? That's not normal person a daily activity. So
Right.
that's just my thoughts on that. With any game, honestly, right? People sending out death threats to people that are like, "Hey, man, why'd you make this?" Blah blah blah, and threaten. That's just silly. Like they shouldn't be doing that. Period. Right? And the beauty of what our video game industry is now, and we'll get to more into that later. Is that we have so many options. Like stuff when stuff like this comes out, it shouldn't bother you. Right? There's like for one game that you don't like, there's probably 10 games that you will like. So just keep looking out there. Right?
Mhm.
And
There's
and just on that topic, just to say something before we push off this, for the 15 years that I was working video game retail and the other 5 that I was working on the, I wouldn't say the dev side, but the research side, um, everyone plays video games for different reasons. Escapism takes a lot of different forms, and for some people, experience these kind of stories in a way that is laid out for them experience that story. It's definitely worthwhile. You look at things like the Telltale games, like you mentioned before. There's some heavy
Mhm.
topics in there, and I think Andre said it best in the chat earlier. If the way that these stories are told or experienced aren't ham-fisted or just like slammed down your throat, or not done with like the delicate nature that needs to be done with them to create a good narrative, then yeah, people are going to hate it or crap all over it. And that may be a problem with this one, just the way it was handled. I wasn't a dev on this game. I don't know what happened behind the scenes. I don't know what was required, because the Norwegian Film Institute was one of the groups behind this. So maybe it was supposed to have more of that like filmatic, story driven kind of thing to really make you think. We've all seen plenty of movies that are like super heavy, but told in a way that is actually worth experiencing, whether it's for escapism or not. Watching something like, I can't rewatch Requiem for a Dream. I watched it once, so like brutal, dark, and talked about these issues that people are having in such a real way. It's like, wow, I experienced that. It was done well. Never watching that again. So everyone's just, they're gonna have those kind of experiences for different things. So there may be people out there that want a game like Dustborn. I'm thinking, something like Life is Strange isn't for everyone either, but that deals with stories and lives and people and characters in a much better way, right? And that's why people gravitate towards that. Or games like Tell Me Why, for example, wasn't a game for me, but I got to know some people who made it. I got to see some testing with that as well, and it was really cool to see like the dialogue around that game, and it won some awards just based on the feedback that people heard.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, honestly, like I said, I think the biggest issue I really have with this conversation and this topic of Dustborn is that just the way people are reacting toward it. Like, um, on both sides, actually, if you want to call it that. We have the side that they're just saying like, "Hey, this stuff should have been made." Andre is talking about it was supplied with DEI, ESG, and SBI, and that could possibly be true, and I think it is true. But at the same time, like I said, it's not for you. Just skip it. And on the flip side too, they shouldn't be pointing fingers and saying, "Hey, you should come play this game because it's this." Right?
Exactly.
And like
That's
you don't control. We just talked about I only have $40 to use. I'm like I'm gonna get a game that I want to play, right? So then that's kind of what I was getting at, is that like right now we're in a what do you call this, an economy where you have to be a little bit more frugal with our dollar. And right now, like people have to be a little bit are going to be a little bit more tactical with what they play and be more careful how to spend that dollar, especially with a luxurious hobby like video games, right? So that's kind of that was my like 2 cents on that.
Hey, Professor.
Yes, sir.
Can you put me in the background for a little bit? I just got to go feed my cat. It's
Oh, you
whining
got
right
it,
at the
man.
door.
You got it. Cat's got to go eat, but we'll move on to the next topic here. Speaking of great games, and I think there's a little bit of poetry behind this. Is we're going to be talking about Black Myth Wukong. Let me add that to the stage to see if no, that's not it. Let me get a different one on there. Let's see here. Stop. Okay, and then if you guys don't know what Black Myth Wukong is, it is a, I would say, everybody thought it was like a Dark Souls game, but it ended up being more like a DMC, right? So I have not played the game yet. I am looking forward to playing it. And the reason why I say that this game is poetic is because in and I think Ace will agree with me on this. In my history of gaming, most developers were either Japanese or Westerners, right? US, right? And Japan. Lately, we've been seeing games come out of Korea and in this case, China, right? And the poetic part of this game is that Black Myth Wukong is pretty much the it happens after the story of Journey to the West. Isn't that an hilarious title for a game for a Chinese developer to release a game in America?
Right?
The Journey to the West. So
And I mean, let's consider this just flat
yeah.
out.
Mm-hmm.
Journey to the West and its various and the various media that it's inspired, it has spread so far beyond, just the borders of China. I mean, let's be real here. Rest in peace, Akira Toriyama. One of the biggest Journey to the West inspired pieces of media on the block. Period. Point blank. The Dragon Ball series. everything from the OG to hell, GT, Super, Daima that's coming out pretty soon.
Yeah.
The original Goku's original journey is damn near a one-to-one sort of retelling or repurposing of Wukong's journey to the West.
Mm-hmm. And here's the thing, man. First of all, let me show my age a little bit, because the headmaster of the academy is old AF. I am a fossil, right? I'm a video game fossil. I'm an Atari 2800 cartridge. Okay, I've seen some reels, and this could be comedy, and it's totally fine online, where they're like, "Wow, Black Myth Wukong's like just like Dragon Ball. Did they copy Dragon Ball?" And then here we are, full circle, right? That's kind of like that's no different than playing Fortnite with a Lara Croft skin, and I go, "Yeah, that's that lady from Fortnite." Gosh, I'm old when I'm shaking my fist at these youngins, these younglings. Right? Now I know why Anakin slayed that whole temple. I'm just saying, like that. Oh,
but you see,
rage.
that right there brings up a point that I'm sure we're going to discuss. It dovetails into a particular point that I'd like to bring up once we get down to the now playing segment.
Oh yeah, yes sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, and the reason why I bring this game up is because we got these Western developers creating these games like Firewalk and that whoever Quantic Dream that made Dustborn, and you have this like Chinese like company that's making this like super like hit game that that is has nothing really to do with modern day situations, but like use the story of Journey to the West and made a video game out of it. It's like it's almost like taking all the things from Greek mythology and Norse mythology and making it into a God of War game, right? Just like what Andre was saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that
like how again, another Korean developer took the age-old classic of Pinocchio, and guess what? We got Lies of P, one of the most well-loved Souls-like action games out there.
Yeah, that's actually a great topic because I haven't played Lies of P. I'm actually looking for a copy of it now. But I am so excited for them to do other grim fairy tales. You know what I'm saying? Like I am like, what can they do with all these other Hansel and Gretel? Like,
Right.
what
I
can they
mean,
do with that?
you remember that one movie with Jeremy Renner, right? Hansel and Gretel, Witch Hunters.
Yeah. See, exactly. Witch
Imagine
Hunters,
a
right?
DMC style game like that
That's what I'm saying.
coming from the studio that did Lies of P. That would be wild.
And imagine, and I'm just throwing this out there. Imagine if Hansel and Gretel, made by the guys of Lies of P, right?
Mhm.
Both characters are on the screen at the same time, and then you can switch off and do combos because
Like Rise of the Ronin.
yeah, because it's Hansel and Gretel,
Oh,
right? Like,
no. Oh
you know,
no.
it's not Hansel or Gretel, right?
It's Hansel
Hansel and
and
Gretel. So
Gretel.
they're technically one character.
Yo,
That'd be
ship it, print it.
see, that's what I mean. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can make great video games with great ideas and take stuff from the past, and just kind of lightly integrate that with gaming. And because there's nothing better, in my opinion, than playing a game and going, I understood. You know that meme
I
where
understood that reference.
Leonardo DiCaprio's pointing, like that's me. Like, oh, I know what's happening there. I know
Mhm.
I know what's going on with that. So yeah, that's kind of my thing with this. And it's so far from what I'm hearing, like Black Myth Wukong is pretty faithful to the story of Journey to the West, and it's actually post Journey to the West, from what I understand. It's not a what do you call it? It's not like a retelling of it. It's actually what happens afterwards. Yeah, so
Oh,
it's very interesting. I actually had to watch a lore video on it to hear that out, but I think
okay.
that's the cool part because you wouldn't have known unless you played, right? You got the idea like that's Goku, right? That's Sun Wukong, right? And then you play it and you're like, oh wait, oh this is different, you know. So welcome back, Nicholas
Thank you. I
and
brought
friend.
Cat.
Oh yeah, cats always make streams better, 100%. Yeah, so I don't know if you heard all that, but we were just talking about really cool, like, well, I don't even know how to explain this, allegorical video game topics, right? Like Lies of P.
Yeah, I was hearing that. I'm a big fan of Journey to the West. Definitely. So it was really cool to see that they were doing a story off of it, or a game off of it, rather, not a story.
No, all good. The other thing that I was saying that you may have missed, or did you hear about when I was talking about how this game has a little bit of poetry behind it? That the fact that it's a Chinese studio, and they're making their first debut game to the West.
Mhm. Yeah,
Um,
I was able to hear the Rick Dalton, finger point. We got an amazing pitch for Hansel e Gretel. So yeah, no,
nice.
I definitely got into it. Cool. I appreciate where it's going.
Awesome. Do you have anything to add on Black Myth Wukong? I have not played it yet, but I hear great things.
I haven't played either, but that is also due to the fact that I don't dive too deep on Souls-like games. It's just not my jam. I always try them out to see what the teams are doing, but it's just not something I spend a lot of time on. I don't dive too deep. I think the last
Yeah,
time I spent a lot of time on it was something more like Sekiro, but
yeah,
I
Sekiro.
tend to kind of go more towards like Ghost of Tsushima, kind of open world stuff, something I can get in and out a little bit quicker and have a lower blood pressure for.
Yeah, you're right.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, it's funny that you bring up Ghost because I actually just platinumed that this year, and I was late on it, and it's one of the first games I platinumed in a long time. So it had to be really good for me to platinum. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what
Yeah,
I'm saying.
yeah. I'm really excited to see what that team's going to do with a follow up to it, and if they actually come out with a show like they're talking about. If it's anything along the lines or quality of like what we got with Shogun, I can't wait.
Hmm. All right, Ace. Here's our next game. And I
Here
want
we
you to lead the charge, my friend. Tell us a little bit more about the recent released Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Game Collection.
Okay, now not just as the resident man on the street gamer, but also as someone who also likes to dabble a lot in game preservation and emulation. seeing that this particular group of games has gotten a re-release, it honestly tells me that Capcom is really trying to, it tells me that they're paying attention. That a lot of folks have been talking about wanting to get back into the Marvel games, with especially with fans of MVCI actually going back and modding that, and doing that big mod for that, the MVCI and beyond, and also folks going back and doing the community edition for Ultimate Marvel 3. There's still that interest in the Marvel crossover games. So it makes sense that now we are basically getting a sort of Marvel Capcom resurgence with the Marvel collection. And I mean, I'm actually happy that we finally got a modern port, or at least a current gen port of some of the older games like Marvel Superheroes and especially Children of the Atom.
Man, that Coda, the last time that game was out was on the Saturn, I think. Because the PlayStation was hot trash because I owned it. So it was. I mean,
let's not go into that.
If Wolverine had 60 frames of animation on his idle pose, I'm pretty sure the PlayStation had 15. So it was not great. Really happy to see the collection out. I think this collection was made possible by the community. Michael B. Jordan, you're part of this, right? If you're watching, which I highly doubt, but your statements among other fans out there of Marvel versus Capcom made it to the ears of the execs at both Disney and Capcom, and we're like, hey, people are still asking for this game. We don't get it. It's old AF, but people still ask for it, right? And I'm sure Disney was like, we really want to make this, but we can't because those characters on that roster, we're not allowed to touch those, right? So I think as soon as they acquired Fox and even Aliens versus Predator, which makes the Alien Queen a princess now, I am so happy that this has finally kind of like been cut loose. Not only because one, you get the Punisher, because that also wasn't released until from the Sega Genesis, by the way. That's showing my age right there. This opens up the possibility of a Marvel versus Capcom 4. All right. I know Infinite came out, right? But I feel like that's in the bin now. And I know Maximilian Dude is doing lots of great things with that in the modding scene. But an official release of Marvel versus Capcom 4 would break the internet. I think that people would lose their minds. There's actually a video of people choking and like losing their breath on the reveal trailer of this game, right? And I'll look for that. And while you guys give me your 2 cents, Nicholas, what you got?
I don't have much for this one other than, I want to take you for a ride. Like,
Yeah.
I just nonstop in my head, MVC2, just that entire like selection scene. Like, I remember there's a couple times we put it on at the store just as a background, just to have that playing. Just before we had, the ability to hook up something to the actual like sound system in the store. We'd have just games on we were testing, right? So that would always pop on, one of my favorites. The only thing that I would want to call out for this thing that I really like is the fact that the commitment of this team. Capcom has had some hits lately after dipping there for a long, long time. And the fact they committed to like roll back netcode with this collection, especially, I think really, there's a reason it's so well received, and that's part of it. It's seamless. Like to be able to experience these seamless, go back and not have a lot of the hangups. But sometimes nostalgia is that double-edged sword. You kind of want that whole experience. But as someone who went back to classic WoW recently, like there's some things that need to be updated. So I appreciate what the team did for this.
Oh, and another little thing that I saw that was actually like really neat with this collection is that like when you're in a lobby for say something like Marvel 2 and you're queuing up, you can actually bounce over and play something else while you're waiting. I mean, I've seen footage of folks, going through and just playing the Punisher for a little bit, waiting for games of Marvel 2.
That is a glorious thing to hear. Is to play another game while waiting for another game to load for a match. That is the future of gaming, folks. Playing a game to play another game while waiting for another person to play the game with you. That
I
is
mean,
amazing.
it's like we're getting that much closer to actually having, although we may not, really be able to fully replicate it, we're getting closer to having that arcade experience, that full on arcade experience at home.
You just need the ability to put down a virtual quarter for next, and then we'll really feel like you've got that cue going.
Yeah,
That's
that'd be
the
super
community
fun, actually.
aspect is something that I do miss, from that era, and that's we're kind of getting up there to that point in age where it's like you can't really do LAN parties that much anymore unless you really go out of your way to do it. But every once in a while, you're just like, God, I just want to get the team together and just stay up late, drinking things we shouldn't drink, energy drinks.
Mhm.
In your case. But yeah, no, I just like that the community aspect is one of the reasons I started doing events and stuff as well, like gaming events. I know some of you had been to the Retroid nights that we had done around here, and then the stuff that I did afterwards for some of the other companies I worked with. That's the thing I love doing the most. That's why I love going to cons. It's just the community. So yeah, I do miss that era. So having points for next or anything like that, that's the last.
Okay, so I just pasted this link on stream on chat. This link is a video of Maximilian Dude, prominent video game fighting game figure on the internet, why Capcom games are making people barf. So
Yeah.
it's a really funny video. Check that out when you guys get a chance. But yeah, here's some fun tidbits about Marvel vs. Capcom 2. I don't know if you guys are aware about this, but when Marvel vs. Capcom 2 first came out, actually wasn't well received, right? And a lot of people don't know this. And Nick, you may not know this, but when Marvel 2 first came out, it was so different than Marvel vs. Capcom 1. People were like, what is this? First of all, like you said, the music was weird, right? It had this jazzy tune that was like gonna take you for a ride. And if you listen to the bangers of the MVSC 1, you're like, this is way different than what the first game was. So what is this? What's happening here? Second part, 4-button fighting game with the 2 buttons as tag. That's kind of weird because most of these fighting games have been 6 buttons, right? So it wasn't well received when it first came out. People were adjusting to it really weird. People were finding all the busted shit too. Like that was not, um, received very well. But at the same time, over time, people, what most fighting games do, they create hype ass moments, right? And these moments are what's memorable. I know Nick, you love moment. What number?
I don't remember the number. You put me on the spot.
I actually don't know either. I think it's 23. Is that right?
I thought it was 27. 37? Was it 37?
Okay, so it's moment 37. Shinanami corrected us. But yeah, that's what created that. And they recently just updated that in the recent Evo. They made another Evo moment for Street Fighter 3, right?
Mhm.
So why are people going to pick up Street Fighter 3? Because hype moments like that exist in the game, right? Even though we may not see those hype moments like live, people have these personal experiences of playing that game when those moments happen, right? So that's kind of that's my 2 cents on that.
Hugo World Order.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely.
So and that's the thing about this game in general was that like this game is super hype in all of that. And the thing is, a lot of people will try to discredit it, saying like, "Hey, there's already Fightcade out there, right?" Stuff like that. But here's the thing, man. You got to understand, a lot of people don't know what that is. A lot of people don't want to put that time to learn what that is. They just want to pop in the game, download it, whatever, right? And they just play right away with your friends, right? Easy access, easy accessibility, and streamlining the process so you can get to more games faster than ever before, right? That's kind of what people want, and that's why they pay. People technically pay for console because PC is too complicated, and they don't have time or the energy for that as well. So,
right. And honestly, between this and Capcom Fighting Collection 2, with with Power Stone 1 and 2, Project Justice, and Plasma Sword, it's like, in a way, it really is like Capcom is trying to take it back to their mid 90s to early 2000s heyday by bringing that material back, or at least putting it in front of a fresh set of eyes.
So with that fresh set of eyes, though, the question is, how many times do they have to go back to the well, old man, before they create something new and great? Why do we always have to go back to it? There's a good reason for it. Like a couple of the comments have said, it's like the moments that stick with you. So I understand wanting to revisit those, but
therein lies the other
going
edge
back
of
to the back. Do we have to keep rebooting the same franchises?
And I think like this game is still it's for what it is. It's selling pretty well. Collectors are gonna love it, right? It's just a good addition. And I don't know if you noticed this, Ace and Nick. Fighting collection, or I think collection in general, has been, I think, trademarked by Capcom now. They have the first fighting game collection, then they have the Street Fighter collection, right? They're releasing the Fighting Collection 2 with the Power Stones and the CVS 3s, right? Or CVS 2. Sorry. Fake news, not CVS 3, right?
Yeah.
CVS 2, right? So
you heard it here first.
Yeah. And
tell
believe
me
it
you
or
had the
not,
back door to that, man. What the hell?
and believe it or not, I feel that the audience and the public is solely responsible for the release of these types of games. And the reason why, and I'll tell you why. Back in 20, I would say 18 or 19, or maybe even 20, I received a survey from Capcom, right? And the survey was pretty much saying, what would you like us to release, right? What kind of games would you like us to make, right? What interests you? And I simply said, I love Capcom's characters. I love their history. They have a great database of original and IPs, right? And even games that were released by using other, trademarks and franchises, right? And I said, it would be awesome if we can just have that in a bundle that we can play super easy online, roll back netcode, right? Because we still like playing those games. We just can't. And I put that in the comments section, made it super long, right? And to see these games come out after that survey, I honestly feel like they were listening to us, because I'm pretty sure these games are not that expensive to make, right? They're already out. They're using the arcade ROMs, right? They're just creating an infrastructure for online play, and other qualities of life in the UI. So props to you, Capcom, for listening to your audience, creating DMC5, all these other games that you guys made post that date, after that survey, because I really feel like you're taking to heart what everybody wanted. So I don't know.
Perfect set and spike when we were talking about, like, why do we keep bringing back these old games? It's because that's what people want.
Yeah. And they're willing to pay for it, so that's Dragon's Dogma 2, DMC5, so Street Fighter 6. So I think a lot of people had a lot of
two
say.
swords, and they're both motorcycles.
Yeah. And next time, I bet you the next time is going to be a helicopter that's like a nunchuck or something. Watch.
It's a helicopter blade that he swings in.
Right. All right. Anyway, so real quick, Nick, you talked about community a little bit. I know that Shinonami on stream here was part of a tournament last week that he partook. Little tournament called Bellingham Beatdown, playing a little Tekken 8, and I think these guys play every Sunday, and I watched them on stream. So when I heard the word community, that's the first thing I thought about locally. So if you guys are into fighting games and you want to check them out, check out Bellingham Beatdown. They're on Twitch. If you want to partake, we can find that link for you, send it to you guys. I haven't joined them yet. I'm still a coward, but eventually I'll play some Tekken 8 with them. Maybe not. I don't know. But anyway, speaking of now playing, I want to jump into the next topic or category of video game, or of our stream here. It's just called Now Playing. And this category typically is, what are you playing right now? Stream, chat, what are you guys playing right now? It could be a multiple games, it could be one game, it could be no games, right? Let us know why. And I'll start it off. Actually, right now I'm playing multiple games. Earlier, I said there's a lot of games fighting for your attention with the idea of FOMO and season passes. You got to get this done, get it played before the next bracket of time comes out and releases. Otherwise, you lose this cosmetic, you lose this stuff. I'm a habitual Diablo 4 player, and I play that every season. I play it with my girlfriend. It's one of those games actually I just play to turn off my brain and just play, right? So with that said, I'm almost to the point of the end of the battle pass, so I've been kind of like playing other games in between. I've been playing a little bit of Dave the Diver on the Switch. Super cool. Really an oddball of a game, but a really fun, charming game. Recently finished Dredge on the Switch. Really cool indie game about fishing, right? And then right now, I would say my main title that I'm playing off stream, because there's some stuff that's happened on my setup that I have to replace, is this little old title. I don't know if you guys know what this is, but Space Marine 2 is something I've been playing. And I was a huge fan of Space Marine 1 when it first came out. I know nothing about Warhammer. Instantly loved Space Marine 1 when I played it. Felt good to shoot orcs, felt good to slash and stab orcs. I felt powerful, I felt strong. Space Marines are awesome, aka StarCraft, right? The second one just magnifies that first game 100 times. From the developers of World War Z, which is, I was like, this kind of looks familiar because I remember playing another game like this that kind of made the same amount of like enemies on the number of enemies on the screen, and lo and behold, it was the developers of World War Z, Focus Entertainment. That's a good image there to show you on that. But if you guys don't know what this game is, it's literally Gears of War, right? You don't have to learn anything about Space Marines or 40K.
You're gonna want to know more.
And I think that is the beauty of this game, is that the more I play it, the more like tell me more about the Tyranids. I want to, so I start Googling and watching videos on Tyranids and like, what is a Space Marine, right? What is an Ultramarine versus a Blood Angel? And you find out there's thousands of them, and you're like, oh my god, this is overwhelming, right? But
just walk into a game store and you will feel the same overwhelming pit of despair knowing there's so much lore.
No, absolutely. But I'm just having a blast. The reason why this is my highlight of game for this episode is that this is one of the first single player games, and it has multiplayer, by the way, that's felt that it was complete. And the reason why I say that is because you have a full campaign, right? And in the campaign, executed beautifully, is they introduced multiplayer. Now, here's the best part. You can play multiplayer on the main campaign, but then as you get to like the third level, they introduce this other squad, right? And they're like, hey, we're your other squad. We're going to do this while you do this. You can play those guys on the multiplayer side of the game and part of the story.
Oh, kind of like what they were doing with, kind of like what Capcom did with DMC5.
Yes, exactly. So it wasn't just like go play this multiplayer and go shoot other Space Marines, right? The multiplayer PvE mode is the other squad, giving you more story of the main campaign.
So parallel PvE.
Yeah, and it's so genius. So genius. I haven't even started yet, but like the reason why I was so excited to talk about this was because I'm playing this game, right? And the guys introduce themselves. Oh, we're Delta Squad, whatever. We're gonna be doing this while you do this. And then the game highlights this terminal, and you walk up to it and it says, to continue the campaign in their perspective in multiplayer PvE, click here or join here. And I was like, wow, that's genius. And I can just turn around and continue the game. Right? Like it was like introduced so smoothly that I was like, I'm blown away by that small detail that they made and put effort into, right? Because they could have been just like, oh, play PvE and that's it, right? But no, they introduced it to the single player aspect and made you want to play multiplayer because it was so ingrained into the single player. Beautifully done. Well done, Focus or Saber Interactive, right? That's my first, I guess, cheerlead for this game. The second one is I saw the roadmap for this game, and it is robust AF, chef's kiss. The reason why I say that is because not only are you getting cosmetics, people demanded more weapons and another enemy type. They're getting that 100%. They're also getting more modes, right? So right now they already had the PvP, the PvE mode, Well, guess what? The people love PvE mode so much they're adding more missions to that, and I think the new type of enemy is gonna interact with that too, right? So they could be like, oh, maybe I haven't finished the game yet, but they could say like, oh, this happened, and so now you're gonna be playing these guys when we told you this happened, right? In this other sector of the galaxy. So I'm super excited for that. They're adding a horde mode, um, super robust game, like for what it is. Don't get me wrong, it's not going to be 100%, right? But I feel like I've been so deprived of this type of game for a long time that I'm just like I'm so giddy for a game like this to come out. But if this game came out 10 years ago, I'd have been like, it's another one of these games. You know what I'm saying? So it's one of those things like we said earlier. When did this come out? Who is it for? Right? Clearly, they're talking to me because I like these kind of games. It's Gears of War, right? But to have it executed in a way where I'm like, wow, they haven't done that yet, and they're doing it really well. Bonus points for me. Bonus points. I love it. Right? So, um, man, I can go on about it all day, but this is what I'm playing. I'm excited to play more, probably this weekend when I have time. And so far, there's no really main down, I guess, like main negative about it, except it does have some like quirks and bugs, of course, like some animations are jank, right? And that's okay. Every game has that. But I think the only other piece of information before I hand it off to you guys, and feel free to share the screen and get it ready down there when you guys get a chance, um, is that this, I think it was IGN. IGN scored this game at a 60 out of 100. No, PC Gamer. PC Gamer scored this game out of a 60 out of 100, right? And I was like, okay, that's their opinion. That's okay, right? I'm not even mad about that. But then I find another review that they made, and they reviewed another game at a 63 out of 100, which means it puts it on the same level as this game, right? And that game was Gollum. And I was like, what? How does this place have that audacity to label us as the same rating as Gollum, that barely anybody played? That is a weird thing. I don't know much about PC Gamer. I just thought it was kind of weird that this game, that I think is in production value and like just everything else was way superior, got 3 points less than Gollum. It is an awkward score. That's all I got to say. But I don't know. Which games are you guys playing now before I go off the rails on this?
Floor is yours, Ace.
Well, as for what I've been playing recently, for the folks that have been following me on stream, I've been getting into a rather wide selection of games recently. Most of my time I have been spending it on, as I mentioned earlier, games like Warframe and especially the First Descendant. Again, the First Descendant is, another foot in the door that Korea has been making in terms of, making inroads into an industry and into genres that are normally dominated by either Western developers or specifically Japanese developers. But I could go all day about the First Descendant and Warfare, but the one that's the one that I think is like my highlight, especially over the course of this week, is a little title that just came out recently, and honestly, I'm surprised this one hasn't gotten more viewers, especially on Twitch. But it's this little game called Elsie. Now, if I am to describe Elsie to someone that hasn't played this game yet, I would say roguelike Mega Man X. Roguelike Mega Man X with waifu Mavericks. Now, what initially caught me about Elsie is I was literally scrolling Twitter. And what caught me about it was that little clip right there that's playing right now, the little teaser trailer showing off, some of the different bosses and some of the fights. And I'm like, okay, there's some wild stuff going on this screen. What is happening here? And then I read the description for it, And they mentioned roguelike, and it's like, okay, I like Hades. There was another little indie sprite game that I was playing, another little indie roguelike, Skull the Hero Slayer. So,
Mm.
I'm dipping my toe into roguelikes. But then the mention, like literally just the mention of it taking inspiration from Mega Man X, I was like, okay, tell me more. And as much, like, even after seeing the trailer, I still wanted to go into this blind. So I had been keeping an eye out for, keeping an eye out for release dates, trying to see, what was going on with the game. But then the brand manager over at Platonic Games had actually put up a post on Twitter, you know, asking for, you know, asking for content creators to volunteer. Saying, hey, if you want to check out this game, if you want to, create content for it, stream it. We've got some review codes on hand. I took my shot, and this game right here is out for what was I'm trying to remember what price point it was at right now. I forget whether it was 15 or 25.
We can look that up. Keep
But I
talking.
mean, even though I got the review, even though I got a review code for the game, like what I have played of it, I have no problem. 16. There we go. So yeah, it's 15.99. I
Yeah, it's
would
on
easily
sale.
pay, I would easily pay that for what this game offers, because it's not just the roguelike elements. It's not just a pretty pretty white knuckle kind of fast paced bullet hell type of action game, but everything from the music to the character design, even though the stages are procedurally generated, the layouts of the stages are very much callbacks to stage layouts like you've seen in the different Maverick stages from Mega Man X all the way up to, at the very least, X6.
Mm.
The different items that you get in the game for your power-ups and your customization, so many little deep cuts and so many little callbacks to other gaming classics. I mean, they have the heart container from Zelda. If you collect 4 of them, you get extra segment on your health bar. Let's see, there's the time worn console, which I believe gives you like a bit of an attack bonus, but the time worn console is literally a Super NES.
Okay. Okay.
And then they have Waka. It's Pac-Man. You kill enemies while you are holding this item, and you have a chance at getting little, what they call Waka buns. It's literally the Pac-Man pellets. You get 100 of them, your character levels up.
That's hilarious. Has
Like,
Playtonic made other games?
what's up?
Has Playtonic made other games?
Platonic actually is the publisher. Platonic is the company that published Ukulele.
Oh, okay. I know that one. So Ace, what I guess, like, for those that, let's just say, have not played Mega Man X, what which is a shame, by the way, what modern game do you think this kind of help emulates a very similar game to it? My brain immediately goes to Dead Cells, but go ahead.
I would definitely say, yeah, Dead Dead Cells, Hades, Hollow Knight. It's very much a contemporary of those kinds of games. Again, the action exploration, the platforming, the roguelike elements where it's built to be replayed.
Yeah,
And
shout out to Dead Cells.
each run has a different feel to it, just based on the different items and different setups you can put together.
Okay. Now
Dead
here.
Cells had one of my favorite marketing
Oh yeah.
little things they did when they brought in um, Castlevania for a crossover DLC.
Yep.
That was top notch. Like they were always asking that developer, like, this is a spiritual successor to this Metroidvania, this Castlevania OG. Make a game for it, please, 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 please. Like all these years, and then they release that like DLC where it's literally just Castlevania Cross. It was so good.
It was pretty genius, and I swear, if you put Castlevania with that font on anything, people like turn their heads and go, "What's that?" Oh, it's just a skin, but I want it. You know, like
what's that? Was that you get a Symphony of the Night?
yeah, exactly. And that's how branding and marketing is so strong and powerful. And you know this, you're the man on when it comes to that. Is that like, you know, just people seeing that specific logo, they just it turns their heads, it grabs their attention because like I love Castlevania. What's this new thing you're talking about? It has Castlevania in it, right? So I mean, that's what it does for me every time I see that like iconic like logo.
Mm-hmm.
So cool. I mean, you talked about this game a little bit, and then before the stream, I was already looking at it, and I was like, "Oh, this game actually looks pretty cool." I'm playing a game called Blade Assault. Have you guys ever heard of that? Very similar roguelite. It's like almost cyberpunk ish. You guys ever heard of that one?
I have not.
Okay. But yeah, it reminds me of this because in Blade Assault you play as like this. It's pretty much, I would say, Dead Cells, but in the future. And you play as this guy with a fusion blade that levels up, and then you like are super strong in the beginning. You die and you get resurrected, and the game starts. Right, that's usually how it works. And then you meet all these characters that you can switch characters from. But every time you log on to the access each chamber, because you're like in an underground series of tunnels, because the post-apocalyptic world is in the surface.
Mm-hmm.
It's different every time. Right. So, and then every time you beat it, you get to choose like whether you want to power up, more defense, a new item. Right. So it's very similar to, like I said, I haven't played this yet, but it sounds very similar to that as far
What
as
was it called?
Blade Assault.
Blade Assault. Okay. Yeah.
It's
you had
very
me at
generic
Cyberpunk,
names.
so.
Yeah. It's got the aesthetic of cyberpunk. Right.
It just reminds me. Remember, speaking of generic titles, just sidebar. Anytime we had games come in, that we're just when we tried to stock them on the shelf, like alphabetized, we're like, why call this? Like Ninja Blade. Remember that game?
Ninja Blade.
Like the bright green cover art. It was just called Ninja Blade. Like generic, so good. I mean, it was better than like some of the other titles we were getting, which like you remember Infinite Undiscovery? Like cool. Like, awesome, great. Let me tell people about that game.
How many syllables is that?
Infinite Undiscovery.
Oh,
if I remember, that
terrible.
was a Squeenix title too. Like,
yep,
awesome.
Yep. They love weird titles. I can only imagine what the original name for that was, and they're like, "This is the best we can do." You know,
this was the translation.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Sure, yeah, put it on the box.
All right, Nick, what's in it for you, man? What are you playing these days? What you got?
I was gonna go in with just standard who I am, talk about a couple of games I'm playing right now, but after Ace got so like into it and like set it up, I feel like I need to a little bit. I'm not going to as much, like to the master at that. But do you two like epic emotional dramas? Great stories.
It depends. That's all.
Big, grand, sweeping stories, emotional, larger than life heroes, that kind of thing. Generally, the answer is yes. On top of that, how about best in class action RPG elements?
Okay. Now I'm hooked.
Also, same game. Not only that, but there's unlimited adventure modes. So you have that on top of everything else. This Hydra beast of a video game, right? This is the game that everyone should be playing. And for my friends that are like, who know me, like they knew what I was about to say. But for me, it is only going to be one game in particular. And that is going to be the Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. Absolutely should be playing this game. The fact that you haven't is a travesty, and everyone should be playing this game right now. I cannot speak enough about this series and the three-headed beast that I mentioned before. This game has all of that, and that is not a lie.
Guilty as charged. Guilty as charged. I have not played this game, but I've been slowly collecting all the Yakuza games for a slow month. I'm telling you, you'll occasionally see me on X guys or whatever social media platform saying, "Hey, what should I play first?" Because I'll have all of them. I've collected all the Infinity Stones, and I'll play Yakuza for the next 30 days.
Oh,
And
you'll
I'll,
need
and
more
I,
than 30 days, my friend.
Oh,
Let
I
me
know,
tell you that.
I know,
Yeah.
and I don't want to rush through them. I want to do everything. I'm gonna sing karaoke. I'm gonna eat every food in that grocery store. You know, I'm gonna do all that. I'm just saying, what order should I do it in?
To the mad lads that platinum these games, my hat's off to you. I can't platinum them, but I take my time and I get as much as I can. I can't do mahjong. I just can't. My brain, I just can't get around it. Joking aside, and always willing to plug that on a serious note. For me lately, like honestly, the slate of games coming up, I've actually wanted to like jump into some new games. So what I've been playing lately has just been older games that kind of I call like the itchy games, the games that just I want to scratch that itch. I want to go back and play it because I'm just kind of vibing with a specific game that I have in my background. For me, like lately, I don't have a ton of spare time to devote to like a brand new title, so I've jumped onto Civ 6 again, just because with 7 coming out and the stuff I saw for that, I'm like, hey, I kind of want to play 6 again. It's itching there in the back of my head. Aforementioned Borderlands 3. I just for some reason it's just like, I just had this looter shooter thing. I'm gonna hop on for 20 minutes, grab a drink after work, and just kind of hang out, vibe out with that. But also, my wife, just for years we've been wanting a Switch and can't afford to pick one up. But a friend of ours lent it to us, and we've been playing Mario Kart 8 together, which has been fantastic. Just to kind of introduce her to that, she played like the old school Mario Karts. It's just something great that we can share together. So yeah, just playing a bunch of older stuff right now. And obviously, like with the slate of games coming out at the end of the year, there's things I want to try, and I know I'm going to have to devote time for that. So I'm taking the extra time right now to scratch those itches, get them off my back.
Right on. Yeah, I know. As we get older, there's less time for us to enjoy our hobby, and work and being responsible takes up a lot of our energy, right? And sometimes even when you get home, when you do have that time, you kind of don't want to do anything. You don't even want to game. So I feel you on that, man. I get on that tangent, but I also want to jump on like a podcast like this and share like our experiences with our friends and a community and our audience. So like Andre and Blue and Shinonimi, we appreciate you for that as well. And that actually is going to lean towards our next topic. Before ending the stream, is kind of like I kind of wanted to just chat a little bit about the nature of the gaming culture and experience of gaming. I know Nick and I talked about this a little bit. I sent him a reel that really resonated with him, and I'd love to talk about that reel. I chatted about that reel earlier today with another person at work. If since Ace, I don't think Ace got that reel, but what that reel was, it starts off as these group of guys. I think there's 4 of them, and they're jumping on the couch. They're all having a good time. They're popping in Halo 2 in the Xbox, right? They got 4 controllers. They got pizza. They got drinks, and it's like a Friday night. This is Friday night with the boys. That's what the peak gaming was at this time, right? Then like 10 seconds pass, and it zooms into the TV, and it flips to Fortnite, and it zooms out, and it's just one dude sitting in the couch with headphones on, playing by himself in this cold, dark room. And Nick and I kind of like looked at that, and we're like, man, that's kind of what gaming has kind of mutated into, and it's kind of sad, and it kind of reminded me
of what you were saying earlier too, about Ace. I think you were mentioning, just sorry, off the top of my head, I believe it was you who were talking about it, Ace. But that whole thing about having a screen and then another screen while you're playing a game, you have another game being queued, kind of thing. It was that in that reel,
that arcade experience at home.
Right. In that reel, the subject was playing a game, and while they were waiting for the next match to load, like it was searching for a match, started doom scrolling through his phone. And how many times, like, I was waiting in Helldivers, waiting for the other person to finally get in with all the server issues, or waiting for them to select where to go. I was just like waiting on my phone, just kind of flipping through, just the inability to connect with my games nowadays. Like, I felt it in that moment, right?
Wow, that just hearing about that reel, and it's like, oof. Because I mean, even with single player games, hell, even with JRPGs, like some of my fondest memories have been, actually hanging out with the boys, sitting down, and us going through the different parts of various stories together. I mean, there were at least, actually, no, let me rephrase that. I can think of no fewer than 10 separate weekends where I would be hanging out with a couple of my buddies from college, and we'd be hanging out with one of our friends, and we would all be just sitting down and playing through something like Persona 3 together, or like Wild Arms 4 or God Hand. Oh, like the first time I beat God Hand, it was a spectator sport.
and here's the thing, man. You're literally saying you're playing single player games with other people while you're in the same room, right?
On hand. Like
Yeah,
the
you're
one
playing
you're
God Hand,
talking
right? That's the amazing and beautiful part about like that type of gaming, because that has translated into Twitch,
Yeah,
right? It's like you want to be there when they hit that moment, right? And unfortunately, the invention of the internet, both fortunate and unfortunately, we're doing a podcast online instead of being in the same room, right? It's the convenience. So it's both pro and con. And I do miss the fact that we can be in the same room with no information outside of that room about a video game, and we're just going through this journey together, right? We don't know, like, let's just Google the answer. Let's just look it up on YouTube for the equation, right? We're just sitting there going, dude, how do we figure this out? I can't beat this. You want to try? Right? We're like doing it together, right? And I think like that's what is missing with Twitch. Twitch has become so readily available that that experience of having that person-to-person experience in a video game, minus the distractions of the outside world, is very lacking in today's modern video game culture. You know,
and I mean it really brings up it really brings to mind just why certain games like Space Marine 2, or like Lollipop Chainsaw Repop, or hell, Andre, I hope you're listening, like Astrobot, are just games that are really harkening back to that older era, that again, mid 90s to early 2000s vibe. Why those kinds of games are, why they're so well beloved, why they're succeeding, because even with the advent of the internet and streaming platforms like Twitch, you know even though you're still sitting in the comfort of your own home, playing through these games again, headphones on and whatnot, but it's the kind of game that still makes you feel like, you know I want to get together with the guys and play this. I don't care, what we find on the internet. It's, let me go grab a couple of 12 packs of freaking coconut Dr. Pepper, invite the boys over for some mac and cheese or some pizza. Set
Those
up the
dino
big screen.
nuggies.
So packed.
Totinos.
Dude,
I've been to one.
melted cheese rolls in my air fryer nowadays. It's like I'm adulting that, but then I eat
I
it and then realize
I
that my
need
stomach can't
them.
handle it the same
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, I gotta take some Tums with those Totinos.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's air fries and
Tumtinos.
dumps.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's that same thing though, and also this actually dovetails into what I wanted to mention earlier in regard to Astrobot. The reason, like, there was an interview with the developers at Asobi with, you know, and one of the questions in that interview was them being asked, why so many cameos? Why so many of the little VIP bots? And their simple answer was this: we want younger gamers to see these characters and get curious about the games they're from. and go back and play them.
Yeah, I mean, having them people come back to old franchises and just rediscover them again, like the Marvel versus Capcom collection, that always like puts a little bit of joy in my heart, you know, because it's like now you get to play games that I like when I was like your age. Like that reminds me of
And it's another point of connection.
yeah, no, yeah, just to relate with people, right? That's where we connect. There was a streamer named Sarah Key, and she was playing the DMC series for the first time, and she's like this like innocent little girl, right? And that was like her favorite type of genre. Like she was playing Bayonetta before this, right?
Mhm.
And her playthrough of DMC was so wholesome because I remember playing that when I was her age, and I was like, God damn, this is so hard. Like, oh, that dog demon's so frustrating, right? And she was,
Or
and
getting
she,
to that spider boss the first time
yeah,
and
the
go,
spider
oh.
boss, yeah, exactly. And she had the same issue with the spider boss, and I was like, wow, this brings me back because I was that age and I was having the same issue with that same boss. But you're also a new generation that's trying out a game that I played when I was a kid, and I was like, man, that's how I know I'm getting old. I'm getting kind of like choked up of like other people playing my games like that are younger than me, right? And I'm like, oh man, that's how I felt. I feel you, and I can relate to that. So, and I was just like, keep at it, you can do it. And I was like very motivated because ironically now I'm motivated to tell her that like,
right?
Yeah, to tell her like, hey, you can do it. There's a little tip for you.
You were
Stuff
the
like that.
fisherman. You were the Japanese fisherman. You can do it.
Yeah,
Keep
I was that
going.
guy. You can do it. Like that. So, but yeah, that
Oh
was
no, we suck again.
yeah, that was my moment that I kind of started acknowledging. Like, yeah, I'm a little bit older, but it's cool to see another generation play the games I used to love. So I can only imagine, like, somebody a little bit older than me watching retro gamers play and then loving it, right? And I think it also matters what age group. It could be like a Gen Z or something newer, right? Somebody younger playing these games and appreciating it. That always like I don't know, that resonates with me really, really well in when I was watching. That was my observation about that. Any experience like that with you guys?
Mine isn't across a generation gap. The only reason I was laughing when you were mentioning it for people that are seeing me on stream, just because my wife doesn't play a lot of games, but she started playing a lot more once we started dating. We've been together about 11 years now. But she used to make fun of me when I play, even recently, Helldivers. I have a propensity that anytime I get pissed off while I'm playing online, I kind of just like blame it on someone. It's like, oh, bullshit. I'll just say bullshit. And she'll just be in the other room, just be like, yeah, bullshit. It's like mocking me. Then she would hop on Hogwarts Legacy because we bought that game for her. And she's playing and getting taken out by a giant spider. And I just hear, bullshit. I was like, what? What was that?
Could you repeat that? It's like,
Yeah,
could you repeat that for the class, please?
So
For people in the back.
Right, exactly. So it was just one of those things that was funny. Like the way that she was reacting was definitely based on what I was doing. And I know that when I was younger, I was parroting with like what my dad was saying, So again, not a big jump like that example, but it is funny. Just even my own little relationship here, like sharing that with someone, their first experience, and they're running into the things that I ran into, and to hear them react how I did, it's just like, you get it now.
Yeah. And I think moments like that, for example, really show you that, we're all human. We all experience very similar things, right? And even though we have different levels of experiences in video games or even interest in video games, it brings us together regardless, right? And I think that's what is really, really cool about video games as a culture, all across the world, all across all ages and stuff, and so on. So
Right. And that example that we were talking about to begin with sitting on the couch with your friends, I mean, that's one of the reasons you can draw a direct line from that experience that we had growing up as games were growing up while we were, and then tying that directly to Twitch and everything right now. It's that same parasocial relationship. It's that connection that we seek in a spot where someone shares similar interests that we do. And you're basically sitting on a couch with them. But I mean, just a lot of discussion about, the point of those relationships or the health behind it, but they're common. It's normal for us to want to socialize. So that's what we were talking about with like the couch, and then with Twitch. It's just like we're making those connections, we're being a part of that, we're sharing it in that moment. So it's that same thing we've always been driving for. It's just now it's behind multiple screens and anywhere in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's I can definitely like I guess like convey this in terms of fighting games and the fighting game community, right? And I think Ace shares this with me because he's worked at an arcade before, and there's just something different about playing somebody online versus having them next to you and building that odd camaraderie when you're like when the guy bodies you but you still want to fight them again,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's super weird. Like I've made some really good friends on in arcades because we've just beat each other up in fighting games and no one got salty. You're just better and I want to beat you. I'm gonna put another quarter in. What I win this time, next time.
I think from like seriously from grade school all the way up pretty much through like sophomore year of college, that was almost exclusively how I made friends.
Yeah, you got to go where people that enjoy the same things you enjoy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's why I played WoW for 15 years.
Yeah. Are you saying you don't play it now?
No,
not anymore.
I canceled my
subscription. I'll put it to you this way, and it's like if you want like a linchpin, a sort of canon event that led to me being the type of individual and the type of gamer that I am today. Simply put, back when I was out in San Bernardino, one of the top Evo competitors would actually show up at our local arcade.
It's eating up everyone's quarters.
Right?
That's all I thought of.
How else are you going to get better?
Give me your lunch money.
I'd say 95% of the L's that I took on Marvel vs. Capcom 2 were at the hands of Duck Doe.
Duck Doe. I've heard of that name before. 100%. Yeah, but here's the thing, Toe. It's almost like an honor to get beat up by an Evo player, because you're like, I stood up to him. Like I know it's like a lame excuse, but like I feel like you can play. I played Justin Wong. I played Justin Wong and I lost, but I felt good playing against Justin Wong.
Right? Because you got to see that sort of professional level play firsthand. And it's even better if you actually manage to either take a character or, God forbid, a round off one of those guys.
Speaking facts, my friend, that was one of the things I remember in Chicago arcades in Aladdin's Castle, where this guy was playing. I think he was playing Marble 1, I think. And there was a long line on the player 2 side of that cabinet. And player 1 was just him sitting, right? If you guys see the anime High Score Girl, right? It was that exactly. This guy was just like, next, sit down, next, sit down. Quarters were overflowing on that right side. You don't even know where your quarter is at that point, right?
You just needed the push from the guile inside you to go up there and take a round from that person.
And that was the win. Honestly, it's like you don't even want to beat the guy. You just like, I just want to take a round. Right. And to just be like, I'm the guy that took a round from this dude. It was almost like trying to be famous by just what do you call it? By proxy.
Right.
I'm the guy that took a round from this dude that was beating everybody.
And more often than not, when you actually do manage to do something like that, you manage to take a character or a round. It's not just getting to actually interact with them. When you just says game where that was a close fight, but actually getting that other person's interest to the point where they're like, let me show you how I did that. And hence you start, it's your end to actually start learning the game even more.
Yeah. And I put up Shinonami's comment here, like the Wazzler. Nick, do you know who the Wazzler is?
No, go on.
So the Wazzler is this terror that's on Marvel vs. Capcom 2 on the online mode in rank match. Can you guess who that is?
No.
He was an Evo champion in Marvel vs. 2.
Oh, that narrows it down. It's not Jay Wong, right?
It is Jay Wong.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. So if anybody comes up and plays Marvel 2 and the Wazzler comes up, you know you're playing against an evil movie.
It's like, it's about to go down.
Oh my gosh. I was watching him fight somebody on Steve from Yo Video Games online last night, and it was 20-0. It was beautiful. You know, and so it was one of those things where you're like, yo, I took a round from Justin Wong. No, I took a character from Justin Wong. Look at me. That's kind of what it was. He wasn't even playing like a ranked team. He was playing 3 big dudes like Juggernaut, Hulk, and Colossus. So one of the 3 weakest characters in the game. So it was really funny to watch. You guys should check it out. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to end the stream on that topic, as like I feel like video games have changed, but not also that the nature of how we play video games, the way we consume them and experience them, have changed over time as well.
Even how we interact with our community.
Right. Absolutely. Like, and here's the thing. I think the biggest aha for me is that like we didn't have the internet back then when I was a kid, right? And so you had to figure it out or buy Nintendo
The
Power.
before times.
Yeah. Game Pro, right? You had to buy a magazine of some sort, call your buddy that's played the game too.
It was either tips and tricks or a 5-subject binder.
Bruh, or $20 a minute, a Nintendo hotline. That's exactly what that was.
I mean, even in the early days of the internet, again, I'm equating it to like my WoW experience, but having to use all the ink in your parents' print to print up the Thoughtbot article in this one like quest item in the middle of somewhere, right? Mm-hmm. Like it was a trial to get that stuff figured out.
And I do remember printing out maps, like because that was the hard ones, like or trying to remember puzzle things. It would write them down, right?
I mean,
passwords for sure.
I actually found one of my old folders where I had actually, I'll have to re-find it again since I'm playing it again now, but I actually went through and printed out like the entire listing of like all the different special moves in Project Justice, because I was playing the Japanese version and trying to go through the school I sent through the world tour. And it's like, oh, I need a list of all these moves so that way I'll know, which ones I'm picking so I can customize my character. But I mean, even before that, I still had listings of like, how to get all the unique weapons for all the characters in Dynasty Warriors 3 and 4.
I love
just printed it out, and I'm just like, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
Not even that, but just our experience working in the video game store, just like what you were just saying. One of my favorite things is when you find an old case or game and someone had like the cheat codes on a slip of paper behind the instruction booklet. Mm-hmm. Like it's like it's from the person like before me.
It's like I feel like I'm looking through their underwear drawer, like, oh, I feel wrong looking at this. That's very personal to them.
Oh no, it's a time capsule.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ace.
I mean, that's really what it is. It's a time capsule.
It is, 100%. It's a time capsule, man. Oh man. Well, I had a blast on this first episode. I don't know if you guys did, but I had a great time.
Yeah, always do, Professor.
All right. Shinanimi, Andre, I know Blue was here earlier. Fluffy was here too. Appreciate you guys checking in. If you guys liked what you guys saw, man, like and subscribe, all that nonsense, right? Was there anything you guys wanted to kind of like tell anybody to find your socials or your channels, guys?
Oh yeah, well, for anybody watching this after the fact that isn't already a regular in the chat, you can always find me on Twitch. Weekdays 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Well, let me rephrase that. Mondays and then Wednesday through Friday, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. You'll find me here on Twitch, twitch.tv/BlazeNaceNelson. We got everything from current class, everything from classics to current favorites. You'll be seeing a lot of LC, Mega Man. No, I already said Mega Man. You'll be seeing a lot of LC, a lot of Gundam Breaker 4. The First Descendant. Just a massive variety of games, especially a lot of the more old school ones, because we're kind of dipping back into that now. Yeah. But if you want to find me, you know exactly where.
Yeah, it's that behind that wall next to that Saturday morning. See you next episode.
After these
backdrop.
Messages,
yeah, after these messages.
Back.
Yeah. All right. What about you, digital marketing nerd?
Well, you'll always find me as part of the GQAzndood network, as it were, because I'm always happy to do that, and especially being a real life friend of yours, being a part of these conversations. That gamer tag that you see right there is what my gamer tag is on every platform, whether it's Steam, Xbox, or PlayStation. Always happy to get together for a game of infinite wealth or otherwise. But nonetheless, this is where you'll find me most of the time. It's so great to talk to you and everyone in the comments as well.
Awesome, guys. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate it. You guys know it's me. It's GQAzndood. I'm thinking about doing these every Tuesday, weekly, right? So, and if people show up and more people participate, we're gonna keep doing it more. But right now, it's planned for every Tuesday, 8 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Other than that, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for tuning in. This is the Academy where the bell may ring, but the gaming never ends. Stay sharp, keep playing, and we'll see you in the next class. See you guys.
Class dismissed.
Thanks.